Welcome to the Sober and Happy podcast, where we talk about all things recovery related, how to navigate the challenges that we'll face along the way on our journey towards our best lives, and how we could go from living a life of simply just being sober to a life where we're both sober and happy. Our addiction and recovery journeys are not a straight path. They're journeys filled with twists, turns, ups, and downs. It is easy to slip into the habit of embracing the journey when everything is going really good, but then instantly question whether it's worth it when something bad happens. But what if we are where we're supposed to be even when things appear to be going wrong? What if the lessons we learn through our challenges are what make us strong enough to conquer our addictions finally? And what if the secret to long-term sobriety is learning to embrace our journey no matter where we're at this exact moment? Well, that is what we're going to be talking about today. So buckle up. This is going to be a great episode. Welcome back. Recently, I was talking to someone very new in their sobriety journey. They were talking about how hard it is to constantly worry about relapse and asked me, when was the first time that you felt confident that you were not going to drink anymore? For me, that answer is easy. It was when I was 11 months sober. It didn't happen when I got my license back. It didn't happen when I got my own place again. It didn't happen when I got a job or even when I got a promotion and a raise at that job. Everything that happened good in the last 11 months was a great motivator to keep moving forward, but none of them provided me the growth I experienced in those couple of weeks that month that led to that moment where I finally felt confident in my sobriety and myself. It all started in a hotel room 10 hours away from my house. In the previous 4 days, I've had to face more challenges than I did in the previous 11 months combined. My father, who was back in prison, was dying, and I had to say goodbye to him in front of 2 armed prison guards. Before I left, everyone in my home group promised to check in on me and give me support while I was going through it, but my phone only rang a few times, and one of those calls was to tell me that the girl I was dating was running around with another guy while I was in Arizona watching my father die. I could keep listing off all the things that went wrong, but pretty much everything that could have gone wrong in 4 days did. As I laid in that hotel bed the night after my father died, the thought came to my head, I could drink tonight and nobody would know. That thought was instantly replaced by the realization that if I could walk through these last 4 days, I could walk through anything without needing a drink. Everything changed with that realization. When I got back to California, it was confirmed that my girlfriend found a new boyfriend while I was gone, and it crushed me. I found myself at the liquor store parking lot on the way home from work shortly after that, debating going in and getting a bottle. But then I got a burst of strength to start my car back up and go home with the reminder that if I walked through my father's death sober, I could get through a breakup sober. The strength that I needed at that moment to stay sober, I only got because I just walked through the most difficult 4 days of my sober life. That only happened because I chose to embrace the experience I had with my father dying. And because of that experience, I was able to walk through what at that point was the second hardest thing I had to face sober shortly after that. And because of that, I grew a little bit stronger again. Now, that does not mean I enjoyed it or I was happy that any of that happened. It simply meant that I accepted the situation and my experience for what it was. My pattern up to that point in my life was to go down the path of self-pity. I would have been questioning why all those bad things were happening to me, questioned whether I was being punished by the universe, started asking myself if it was all worth it, and ultimately choosing to punish myself even more by taking a drink. Eckhart Tolle said something that has always stuck with me. He said, "When you complain, you make yourself a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept it. All else is madness." To me, that saying reminds me to embrace whatever stage I'm in at this moment of my sobriety journey, both the good times and the challenging times, accepting them for exactly what they are, no more and no less. Many of us with addiction issues use substances to try to control our emotions in our daily lives. When things were uncomfortable, I drank to try to stuff down those emotions. When I was doing something fun, I always wanted to drink to try to make it even better. When we get sober, we start to feel things as they are, and that can be very uncomfortable. All of a sudden, we start to completely feel those emotions we've been trying to stuff down. Things also tend to not feel as fun anymore because we no longer have alcohol to kick it up a notch. So why is it important to begin to embrace where we are in this exact moment of our sobriety journey, and how do we begin to do that? The first reason is that it gives us clarity about where we truly are in that moment. When we're not embracing the moment where we are, we're going to be living in the past or in the future. You can't get to a destination if you don't know where you're starting from. Try opening up Google Maps, typing in just a destination, and asking it for directions. It'll have no idea how to tell you how to get there because it doesn't know where you're starting. Our recovery journeys are the same. You have to know where you are at this moment to know how to get where you want to be. That includes knowing the obstacles you're going to face along the journey. For example, let's say you're a couple months sober and for the first time you're feeling great about where you are. It is really easy in this stage just to hit the cruise control and ride the nice wave you're on. However, if you fully embrace that moment, you'll recognize the choices that made you get to this point. Did you finally decide to stop hanging out with those friends who always tried to get you to drink with them? Did you finally decide to start trying new sober activities and learning that you could actually have fun sober? Did you just face and conquer a huge fear that you've been avoiding for months? All those things are critical to embrace and to remember. Now let's say it's a couple months down the road and seemingly out of the middle of nowhere, nothing feels good anymore. Everything seems to be going wrong and we're no longer happy most days. We also need to embrace this. When things go bad, our natural fight or flight instinct kicks in. And for most of us, after years of running from everything with a bottle in our hand, our flight muscles are usually much stronger than our fight muscles. Embracing where we are doesn't mean settling or giving up on progress. It is quite the opposite. It is about finding peace and empowerment in the present moment while also working towards positive change. So when we're feeling down, by embracing that, we could take an honest look at our situation, how we got there, and how we could get through it. Since we already did this when we were feeling good, we know what steps we took to get to our happy place. So we could ask ourselves if we stopped doing some of those things that were creating that joy in our lives before. We could also look and see if we have allowed ourselves to get off the path. Maybe we started dabbling in some other bad habits that may feel good at the time, but always make us feel worse the next day. Maybe in a moment of loneliness, we decided to call an ex that always seems to break our hearts. Maybe we fell back into the habit of negative thinking and stopped seeing the things in our lives that we could be grateful for. Or maybe life just dealt you a really big blow that you had no control over. We must embrace that too. Like I said, when I went through my father's death, it doesn't mean that we are happy these things are happening to us. However, we could choose to face it head on, do whatever it takes to get through it sober, and come out stronger on the other side. Finally, embracing our journey means celebrating every victory, no matter how small. Recovery is a series of milestones, from days of sobriety to moments of clarity and insight. Each step forward is worth acknowledging and honoring. And even when we fall and get back up, we must acknowledge falling and also celebrate getting back up. It allows us to have compassion for where we have been and acknowledge how far we have come, even in those moments where we find ourselves way off the path. But no matter how far off the path you get, as long as you could embrace where you are, you could get back on track. We go back to our Google Maps example. Even when we get off track, as long as we know where we are, we will get rerouted back to the path that will get us to our destination. And that destination is a sober and happy life. No matter where you are at this moment and what you're going through, I want you to know that destination is available to you. Even in those dark moments when you can't see the path, just embrace where you are, take a deep breath, give yourself some love and compassion, and direct all your energy on just taking that next step forward. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you're enjoying this podcast. Starting this week, I'm going to do something a little different. Each week, I'm going to end the episode with a random challenge. For this week, you know that friend or family member that you keep meaning to check in on, but you always get too busy and forget to pick up the phone? Take some time today and call them and catch up. Don't just send a text. Pick up the phone and call. Let them hear your voice. Each day is precious and tomorrow is not guaranteed. Don't wait until tomorrow to call them. New episodes come out each Friday, so I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and keep living sober and happy.